presto. Read the Communist Manifesto. Gorillas in the mix, took a Marvin and Manesto. So,
Welcome in to Oakland is brand new podcast, very first episode. Very excited to be here. Happy to have you with us. A lot to get into today. Before we get to that, today's episode is brought to you by Breakfast Burritos.
Breakfast burritos.
I do have a couple of thoughts on breakfast burritos that I want to share. I'm a big fan of breakfast burritos. I'll say that's actually one of the things that I was very much looking forward to when I decided to move back to the Bay Area, back to Oakland. I feel like you can get a breakfast burrito anywhere, but I think like burrito culture and by extension, breakfast burrito culture is it's different.
What goes in your burrito, bro?
So that's what I want to talk about, right?
Okay,
Actually,
yeah.
so and this is very personal. The thing that I want to mention is, on multiple occasions, I've had rice in my breakfast burrito, right? And
That must have been New York, bro.
First mistake. All right, keep going.
all right, so the first time it happened, I didn't understand why, right? But here's what I really want to say, to those out there who are actively putting rice in your breakfast burrito, please stop.
Don't do it.
Don't
You know what I'm
do
saying?
it.
Don't do it. It's not a breakfast
stop.
burrito if you put rice in it.
Exactly, right?
Potatoes.
If you're putting rice
need
in
a
a breakfast
potato.
burrito, that's just a burrito with eggs in it.
In the
maybe,
morning.
right?
So what's your protein? What's your protein of choice for the breakfast burrito?
I used to go to the Ashby flea market with my dad. There was a truck there, and it was a dude and his mom, and the breakfast burritos were banging. And I would either I would do like a combination, which was like ham and sausage, I think.
Okay.
But, it's basic potato, cheese, egg, some meat,
So like the omelet.
You gotta
wrapped
have the
up, and it's
pico.
big.
Hey, breakfast burrito is that old school meal that's gonna get you through that day. It's like on them days when you ain't like, man, what am I gonna eat for lunch? I don't even know if I can make it through lunch. Like, man, I'm gonna get this fat ass breakfast burrito, eat you one fat. Now that's when you was going to the truck. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's like you going to the truck like 55th or something like that. When you go to the hood truck, because they know the struggles in the morning. Because it's all the workers coming. Like, no, I'm serious. That's a real game.
No,
on some, you only that's got
why
a few
they have
dollars.
pre-made ones.
Right, you got a few dollars, nigga. Don't go get no fast food if you really hungry, bro. On everything, because I'd have had days that breakfast burrito had to get me to dinner, bro.
It'll get you to that.
And then it got me there. You know what I'm saying?
It'll get you there for sure, for sure.
So that's some real town shit.
All right, well, given this is the first episode, we should probably take a little time to explain what you're listening to, who we are, what we're trying to do. Podcast is called Oakland Is. A little bit about us, four guys from Oakland. We are not the authority on all things Oakland. We're not the official representatives of Oakland. We're just four guys with a lot of love for the town. We are 80s babies, which I feel like it's important to call out, right? Like to kind of set expectations. So, we remember the earthquake, we remember the fire, remember Pac. Yeah. Okay. Because I feel like there's like 25-year-olds alive right now who weren't alive when Pac died, right? So it's a generational thing. Anybody got any fire, earthquake stories to share?
Who want to start that one?
Man,
Fire, earthquake stories. You want to go earthquake or fire?
Yeah, let's go
earthquake
first.
I feel like
Earthquake first.
earthquake was way bigger than that fire. Fire was in the hills. I ain't gonna lie. We would sit back watching that shit.
Shit was
Damn, they got it
black
bad. Everybody felt that earthquake.
Yeah, the earthquake was crazy. So, yeah, man, my experience with the earthquake was I was at, I believe it was John Muir School in Berkeley, right? I was with Yemi. We had just dropped off Ray, Judah, and Tone. Was Tone there too? Taking Taekwondo?
Yeah.
And so me, Al, and Rachel was at the playground, right? So we all on the tire swing. And yeah, man, all of a sudden the tire swing just started going crazy. And we like, yeah, Yemi, keep it up, keep pushing us like this. This is fun. Right? And then all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And we're like, what the
Earthquake trivia. Who remember a dude named who was in the rubble for hella long?
Oh, Buck Helm.
Ain't no fucking Buck Hill. What the fuck you talking about? Pull that shit out your ass. Nah, it could be. You know, you gotta remember. But y'all remember it was a dude in the rubble damn near like 8 days.
People magazine.
Y'all don't remember? I know y'all remember that.
I was too young.
Bro was in the rubble for a good 5 days, bro. They pulled him out
Google
in
search.
situ. He
He
survived.
made it down for them 5 days.
He died like a month or two later.
Buck Helm, bro.
Oh, Buck.
Oh, damn.
Man, shout out Buck, man.
Rest in peace, Buck.
Rest in peace, Buck,
He
bro.
didn't even know who you was, man.
Hey,
That's wild.
Buck, you a salve, bro.
8 days.
8 days, bro.
8 days.
I remember that.
I don't
I wouldn't
remember.
want to be. I wouldn't want to be trapped in West Oakland, nigga, outside the rubble for 8 days, nigga. In the rubble, nigga. Hey, shout out West Oakland, man.
I love West Oakland. Shout out Acorn, man.
But what I want to say though, regarding that earthquake, man, is that it really, to me, looking back at everything, man, how it all played out in our neighborhood, right? It was what's what I'm looking for? It was a good example of how just the town operated, man. Especially our neighborhood. Everybody looked out for everybody. We was all checking. Hey, you good? You good? You need this? You need that? Y'all got something to eat? Because it wasn't no power.
Right.
So and
For
it
how
wasn't no
long?
just for that one night.
It was
just that one
That
night.
night, the next day, it got restored. But so that night, like you said, everybody was outside. Everybody was on their radios. Like all the parents had their little battery operated radio, trying to listen to the emergency network, get the update. Phones lines get jammed because everybody making calls and everything.
Yeah, this was before cell phones.
Right?
Yep,
so
yep.
house phones wasn't working. So it was just, at some point, it was just like, man, we gonna come out. Everybody was out sharing a little information that they got. Hey, you know, this happened and such. I heard over here is woo, and all that. And everybody was like, you know, y'all good, y'all this and that. Everybody checking each other. Everybody made sure everybody was straight. And, you know, and it was a community. And so anyway, that's what it brought me. That's kind of what I remember about that. And as a kid, yes, we made the best out of it. So we had fun because we know we was all outside. We probably wasn't no school. Wasn't no school the next day. We knew we wasn't going to school, so we was out there kicking it. I remember everybody being outside in the front, and it's just it's different. And so I know we're gonna get to that a little later, but that was just an example of like that old Oakland. And it's not old because, you know, this is it's 89 or whatever. But compared to modern day,
It's hella
it
different.
don't hit the same.
We can keep moving. So I guess second part that I kind of wanted to do is like, what are we trying to do with this podcast, right? Like, you know, somebody's listening to this right now. Maybe they're having a good time, but they might also be wondering, like, what is this podcast? What am I getting myself into? So I think I wrote down some notes that I will try to make out. You know, a podcast is really an opportunity to explore the different aspects of our hometown through conversation, right? What I'll also say personally, maybe a little selfishly, I think for me, one of the things that I wanted to do with this is explore my own kind of affinity towards Oakland. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think even as a kid, I kind of always felt like Oakland was special, you know? And maybe, I feel like maybe everybody feels that way about where they grew up, but I think, and it's weird because, you know, growing up, there were definitely things that I was not comfortable with in Oakland, you know what I'm saying? But I think even then, and then certainly as I got older, like, I still kind of had an appreciation for the beauty and some of the ugliness and kind of that yin and yang that kind of, to me, sort of defines Oakland.
Yeah,
right. Like it's a crazy place.
It's
Sometimes
complex.
hard to
It's one of the
yeah.
most complex places on the earth because the thing about, and like, you can only understand this if you're from here. It's like going other places in the world, you'll know that like there's nowhere on earth like Oakland. Nowhere.
Yeah.
Oakland is a
what I'm saying?
little bit of everything mixed up, you know, right? Because it's like you go other places and, you know, so basically you see other things and how other people vibe and whatnot, but it's like it'll be from the poorest, ratchetest thing you could think of, right? That you seem like, damn, we see that every day. And all that, right? To some top notch, rich, like boss type, like you know what I mean. So you got the swanky level, like high
You're
level.
exposed to every aspect of life.
Yeah, blood. And I think that's part of the reason why so many artists can thrive out here, because it's not just one thing. Yeah. To me, I was intrigued for the simple fact that it's some town based discussion or whatnot, and at the time where the town is looking bad right now, to be honest. Like, so we all know, and especially in the national view, right? So for outsiders, even to us, we like, man, town is fucked up, right? We can all say that at some time, right? Yeah. But to outsiders, they looking at it like, oh my God. The best way to set the record straight is from some insiders, man. So, that's the hear from the horse's mouth, man.
I hope when people hear this podcast, they can like have that nostalgia feeling and just like bring their own, like bring back memories like they probably forgot of, and just really have like that Oakland pride. But like, okay, it's ugly right now, like as Drew was saying, like it is ugly, but it ain't always been like that. It ain't always gonna be like that.
We really do want to highlight some of the positives that are still going on.
It's a lot.
And there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like everybody at this table right now is, just living proof of positivity within chaos. So
I think the last thing we should probably do before we jump into the topic of today is maybe just go around, introduce ourselves for the first time.
For sure.
All right.
You want to kick us off, man, to my left?
Start with me, man. I'm Judah, East Oakland's finest, man.
Yeah, man, I'm Marcus, man, straight from the 50s. You feel me?
My name's Ray. East Oakland's own, Highland Hospital, baby. You feel me? With that being said, I am the only member of the family from East Oakland from start to finish. So leave it at that.
We gonna leave that. we gonna leave that. Because Highland ain't even in East Oakland.
Highland is for sure East Oakland. Bro.
On, East Oakland?
It's 14 there.
It's phone town. It's kind of phone town,
That's
bro.
the avenues, bro.
It is, but man.
That's big facts.
That's all right. We can edit
All right, so now our first poll is Highland Hospital in East Oakland.
Right.
Lake Merritt, nigga.
That's very, nah.
Nah, it's not.
Nah.
It's not.
That's not.
Nah.
Shout out Highland, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Northern California,
Center.
#1 trauma center, man.
Number 2 trauma center in
They done looked out for your boy a couple times with the trauma.
You feel me? Hey, you go to Highland, you don't make it, man. They try their best, bro.
They
wasn't
tried
gonna
their
make
best.
it, bro.
All right, well, I'm your host, and I've been thinking for a little bit about what I want to call myself, because I feel like when I go into Pete's Coffee and tell them my name, I feel like what gets written on the cup is never my name. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like I have a complicated name, but I feel like it gets misheard.
Hey, Ron.
Right, so we're gonna go with A-Trav.
A-Trav.
That's what they used to call me in college.
Man,
some people.
before this is over, y'all niggas got to give me a nickname, man.
We will.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
You feel me?
All right, so now you know who we are. You know what we're trying to do. If you're still listening, I guess, then you're down with us. So topic or the title of today's episode is Oakland is Home. And so, we thought that was an appropriate first episode to dive into and really talk about kind of the different aspects of Oakland being home, what it means to us, and just kind of exploring that theme. So maybe to kick off, I'll just, pose a question to the group. Talk about your experience growing up in Oakland. Whoever wants to take it.
I'll start. I will first of all, I will tell everybody like our upbringing was pretty much unique, like pretty much to like, you know what I'm saying, what you would call conventional upbringing, where it's just, you know,
What Mozzie say? The beautiful struggle.
yeah, for real. Like, you know, it was bad, but shit was good. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, we made the best of everything. They talked about earlier, you know, we was really big on community. We really were taught community and looking out for each other.
Where do you think that came from?
I think that came from just all the elders around us, like both of our parents, like, you know what I'm saying, just the OGs. It was just how people. It was just the thought process of people at the time.
Right. It was that it takes a village.
Exactly.
Mentality.
Yeah.
And this was the old school days where somebody else's parent could whoop your ass.
Exactly.
Straight up.
No, straight up.
And if you got your ass whooped by them, you'll get your ass whooped again.
And you get your ass whooped again.
Yeah.
You feel me?
For sure.
Just off the embarrassment, like, what the fuck? Like, we told you.
But everybody, other parents could put you in check, which nowadays that ain't
Don't
flying.
talk to my son like that, nigga.
They don't care if the son
the
out
whole
of pocket
dynamic has
or
changed.
not. It's going up.
Yeah.
Man, my experience growing up in Oakland, like Ray and you just said, like, it was unique, man. I remember, you know, a whole bunch of shit. Like, I remember, like, with the little partners walking over to seminary over there to Rainbow and playing the little creek right there with the tunnel and shit, trying to catch tadpoles. You feel me? It was like super active. You feel me? It was active around our block. But then also, like for me, like I went to elementary at Sequoia on Coolidge. And it was a totally different environment.
Right.
So like having those type of friends
Like
that
being
was like
bused to school in Alabama in the 50s.
it's like going to that school and being
I
in
was
that
school at Berkeley,
environment.
so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Being in that environment, being exposed to like different cultures, you feel me, and different kinds of upbringing.
We were like, when we were at Sequoia, how many? It was like 13 out of like 4. Like, how many students?
I don't know.
Like,
It wasn't a lot of us up there.
It was only a handful of black
But yeah, then you know, come back to the hood. You feel me? Like it was just like that community. I know we're gonna harp on that a lot. You know, because one of the main things I remember is like, man, I can walk you through the layout of each house on my block. Still, because I spent so much
on the
time.
inside, yeah.
In each house.
You know what's wild? Not to cut you off, but I still have dreams about like different houses, like being over, just like like
You ain't
weird,
alone.
like randomly. You know what I'm saying? Like,
nah.
yeah.
I could walk down the street and look at a house. And, be
And it's
like,
not. I wasn't
I've
even
been on
over
the
there
inside.
that much. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
just like I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
And then, like, you know, growing up in Oakland as like a teenager, like, you know, a young teen, and then really, you know, starting to develop and being able to see like what's actually going on, like it was real. You feel me? Like hell, it was going down. You feel me?
Yeah.
Let me ask a question about something you mentioned.
Yeah.
You mentioned going to school in Sequoia and then coming back home and kind of the different worlds, right? Like, as a kid, did you like how did you balance that or make sense of it, or were you kind of just like, you know, oblivious to you know what I'm saying?
I was oblivious, like no doubt, I was oblivious. But then at a certain time, I think probably around like 5th or 6th grade, like I noticed a difference, like for sure. You feel me? And then it wasn't even about just like, oh, I'm going up here with like hella white kids and all this type of shit. It was like, oh, I'm kind of safe up here.
Right.
Like I don't like my guard. Like even as a kid type.
Yeah.
Like I'm not on guard like that. You feel me? And then just like coming back, you feel me, to the hood, and then you just realize, like, even like, you feel me, as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, like, yeah, nigga, you already like, you feel me, you got a certain way about you. Like you you standing 10 toes down, you feel me? You got your guard, you feel me? I'm relying on these fools, Ray and Jew, and then, you know, like we had hella niggas growing up with us. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that was like the main difference, you feel me? Like just the safety, like just the sense of safety in the two environments, you feel me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It was smooth.
It's definitely a contrast when you're going from school, your school environment, to home.
Depending on what school you go to, though.
Exactly. So I was gonna say,
saying?
I relate to him because I was in a similar situation. But
My school,
Who is him?
man, my school experience was totally different because I went to Sequoia Elementary, but I also started my first, you know what I'm saying, couple years at Horace Mann. And yeah, man, you know, dealt with some crazy shit. Like, you know, I'm gonna tell one story, all right? You know what I'm saying? And shout out to Shadi, you know what I'm saying? Rest in peace, the twins. 15th and center, because, yeah, anyway, so kindergarten, you know what I'm saying? Reading at a 6th grade level, you know, acting like they ain't never seen no shit like this before, and thought it was a good idea to put a 5-year-old kindergartner in a room full of 6th graders. 1985, and he saw shit. You know what I'm saying? They thought that was just a good idea. You know what I'm saying? So, you know.
he can read. Why y'all can't read?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
We gonna whoop this ass.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway, yeah, so, you know, dealt with a little, you know, bullying, you know. So, and back then, you know, 6th graders was adults and shit. You know, niggas wasn't giving a fuck about school, you know what I'm saying? I went to school with a nigga that was 22 in the 9th grade. I was a sophomore. So,
Hey, but I feel like everybody has some niggas like that.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like, a lot of these niggas was grown in the 6th grade. You know what I'm saying? So I'm 5 years old with grown men mad at me and shit. Because I could read. So, yeah. You know, shout out to Shadi. They held me down, though. You feel me? But yeah, that's, you know, after that, I had to go to Sequoia. So it was just a whole different,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
experience for sure.
It's interesting hearing you say that because I think I had kind of a similar experience. So I think when I started, I went to preschool in Berkeley, and then I started. I went to John Sweat.
Oh, yeah.
For like 2 years. I think Tom Hanks also went to John Sweat. Just call that
He
out.
went
They
to
used
Bret
tell
Hart
us
for
that,
sure.
yeah.
Yup.
You feel me?
Anyway, but I was in a similar situation where, so this was right around when like computers were becoming part of the classroom. So you remember like Oregon Trail and like
Oregon
Mavis
Trail,
Beacon
for
and all
sure.
that.
Yeah.
What was that? Doom or whatever? Was that one of them too?
Yeah, Wolfenstein, doing all
That
the
wasn't in
games.
the classroom.
yeah, that wasn't in the classroom, but
Leisure Suit Larry.
that was a game.
That was a game.
So, my dad used to build computers, so I was around him a lot, and I think I was kind of computer literate as a 6, 7-year-old.
Yeah, we remember.
But so I used to kind of be in the class, and I would be helping the other kids, and then it was a similar type of thing. Like I think I was put into a couple grades above, and I think what actually made my parents. Like, I think my parents came one day to, like, observe. I don't know if it was, like watch your student in class or something like that, or if they happened to be there. But they came, and I was, like, going around just, like, helping other kids. Like, I wasn't learning anything. I was just, like, helping other kids. And they were kind of like, yeah, like, we need you to be challenged. You know what I'm saying? And so they ended up pulling me out of there, and I think the next school I went to was Beacon Day School, I want to say. But that was basically the end of my public school journey. And it came from basically from wanting to prioritize education and all that. So it was, I started going to Beacon, and then from there I went to another school in Berkeley, and so on and so forth. But I definitely, I went from being this like prodigy, like that's not how I thought about myself, but it was just like, because I was like able to do the assignments and stuff like that. Like, you know, it's like, oh, Eric, this kid is gifted.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's so
Yeah.
well behaved and read. No, but it's
No, they treat you like you was a Shetland pony or something. Like,
so, but
like,
I went to this other school and I was like just another kid. You know what I'm saying? But I also agree. I mean, you know,
no, it's
not
funny
so
you
much-
say that, man.
Yeah,
That's
go ahead,
crazy
go ahead.
because it's like that's exactly how it was from the transition from Horace Mann to Sequoia in elementary. I remember in 3rd grade, and it was like that was like the first year because like I never had issues with like grades or anything.
Right.
3rd grade, and it was just like because everything was fucking easy. You get what I'm saying? And it was
Right.
like 3rd grade was like the first year I was challenged, and I'll never forget. Like my teacher, Miss Young, she was like, "You're gonna have to get your shit together." Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't understand who you are in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I had
So-
similar experiences as I got older, and I was like, you know, like I was like struggling in math and stuff like that, where I used, you know, because it was like, you know, this is algebra 2 now or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And like, yeah, that's interesting. Well, the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and we can come back, whatever.
You got something to say,
Yeah,
nigga? Speak
I'm
up.
saying I was letting everybody get their piece out. I didn't get a chance to say what Oakland was like growing up for me.
You know what I'm saying? Go for it.
So, all right. Oakland growing up for me, like it was crazy because like how they were saying it was like 2 worlds kind of in a way. And so like I'm going to school, I'm doing a thing. And so for me, I was going to school in Berkeley and it was way more diverse and more affluent or whatnot. And so I'm dealing with all these kids. Then I'm coming home and I'm in a different environment. And it's so I'm seeing the difference and whatnot. And so that was one thing. But the thing, so like that was one contrast for me. But the other thing, it was like how it was kind of like 2 worlds because like we live in, like you always seen growing up, we had a strong, like everybody's been saying, right? It was strong community sense and family values and all that. And so, bam, we all had that. Everybody, it was strong church going people, right? So we all was hearing stuff about God and all that and having, you know, about your morals and this and that, right? So they trying to instill that type of stuff in us, right? And so we see all that, learning about how to be good people and whatnot. But then at the same time, we see this other side of Oakland too.
The motherfucking game.
Right, and so we young and we coming up and we learn and we hearing this, and then at the same time, just like you say, we start learning this game and we start hearing this game and hey man, you know I did such your schoolmates and your friend, your neighbors and your other people around, man, we just did this and that and we whoop and so like you like damn, and then plus it's you can't deny what's going on. Right, because like you hear the story, like this the '80s, right, and you hear the stories just about everybody else across the country, right? Like, so this crack wave was hidden, and a lot of folks like say it hit in Oakland. That's some experimental shit. They hit it. I don't know, right? But whatever, I know crack go way back in this joint, right? So no, but for real though, some you know what I'm saying. Some people really say like that shit started because as a weapon against the Panthers and whatnot. So and against all the organizing that was going on in Oakland. So I don't know the truth, you know what I'm saying, whatever. I was young. But at the same time, what I'm saying is that we grew up in that era. And so it was big money in the streets, but it wasn't no way to deny that. And so as being youngsters, like we seeing that. And so just like you hear everybody else, they say, man, I didn't grow up around doctors and lawyers and all that, like, the fly cats that I was catching my eye, I ain't gonna lie. The ones that was catching my eye was the players and the pimps and the gangsters, but overall just hustlers. Another thing too, Oakland, you wasn't when you had that on you, when somebody say where you from and I say I'm from Oakland, like that meant something. That meant like, and Oakland also meant you wasn't no sucker, right? Oakland meant you was hard. Oakland meant you was tested and you been through some things. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? When you say I'm from Oakland, you ain't saying that shit because it's like, oh, I'm right across the bridge from San Francisco. You ain't saying no geographical
no.
shit. Nigga, you like, nigga, I'm from Oakland, nigga, so you know, nigga.
Hold on, nigga, no, I'm from
East
Oakland, nigga.
And when especially when I put that East Oakland on it, nigga, I'm with the shit. So, you know what I'm saying? So, like, that part, growing up around that, and then we started getting more pride in where we was from, and that all stuff kind of came a little later. But the foundation, as being young, the we going through, you like, this shit is real out here. Like, okay, my parents from the Midwest, both my parents, not from Oakland or the Bay Area.
Hey, none of our parents are from, you know what I'm saying?
Well, Pops from the city.
Yeah, but your parents, but so my parents didn't live. They had me not long after.
Now they were
they
from,
moved
like, they
to
grew,
California.
Right.
So they didn't know a whole lot about Cali like that, right? Or Oakland, right? Because Oakland is different than anywhere else in Cali. So,
no question.
So they didn't know much about Oakland. And so they grew up, they both from Ohio to Columbus and this and that. Excuse me, I know they had their issues out there, but it wasn't popping how the town was popping. So we grew up, and I vividly remember it like my so another thing, this was just common. This was just shit that happened. You'd be sitting around eating dinner, right? I mean, you hear gunshots like all the time, like we hear that shit, right? And to the point, was it like, was nobody niggas duck and run and it was like, oh, they getting off again.
Right. You got used to it.
You're right, right. And so, so bam, I'll never forget, since like my dad ain't grown up like that apparently, right? And so he would be on some, all the time we hear this, bah, 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 bah. He cut off the lights, he dropped it, everybody get down on this shit. I'm like, what the fuck you talking about, right? And so, but like, so that kind of stuck to me, right? And so, not to, but the point is just that, like, okay, I know I'm in an active neighborhood, right? Mm-hmm. So even though I'm not exposed, my parents keeping me like away from that, right? But
they're doing their best.
They trying.
They did their best.
But at the same time, I know where I'm at too, and so I'm getting more and more aware of my environment, and like we would like, you know, so we would see things like, you know, we done seen your people. So I remember one day we outside playing, and boom, somebody dude start limping. We hear some shots, bow bow bow. Not hella shots, but a few, boom boom, and then this dude started limping up the street, right? And we like, oh gee, what's wrong? Oh man, I just got shot. And we was just out there playing baseball about something. He pulled up his leg. Dude got a straight hole in his shit, right?
Man.
And then, but he just kept it lit, limping up the street, right? And so it's like, damn, okay, so now we know shit is real out here. You'll really get your ass shot. So just growing up knowing that, so I'm like, man, we see this money, we see, and you see like that it's real, and so that start kind of molding you. Then the people you be around, you like, you know, and they bringing their experiences. And I ain't gonna lie, a lot of people, like, we honestly, we didn't know it at the time, but we had a stronger foundation than damn near everybody that we came across, right? Because most people was in single family homes, and you know, shit was hard. They was dealing with drugs. Everybody, we was all dealing with drugs, right? Everybody that's another thing, man, growing up in Oakland, growing up in East Oakland, everybody I know was affected by drugs somehow, in one way or another.
Yeah.
Everybody I know, period. Right? And so some was more extreme than others, but the drug culture, it was active. So it wasn't it was not shunned upon, right? It wasn't, you know, now somebody if you couldn't control your habit, now that was looked upon a different way. But if, you know, it's like the saying kind of was like everybody got a little habit, right? Everybody got some vice, right? And so
handle your habit.
Can you handle your right?
Yeah,
and so so anyway, not to get too long, but just like, okay, so that was Oakland. Growing up to me was you see the underworld. It was first exposure to the underworld. But looking at Oakland when I was young, man, Oakland was so fly, right? I ain't gonna lie. Oakland, it was pimps, players, hustlers, and a lot of musicians, artists like to, you know, can you imagine the biggest rapper in the country
Coming down the street.
riding down your street as a kid, right? So that's what, like, you know, MC Hammer rode down our street. We was little kids. He stopped, talked to us, hey, all that stuff, right? And so I was like, damn, Oakland is the fly. I don't want to go nowhere else.
Hell yeah.
I mean, just like to the entertainment aspect, but also like, you know, there were activities when we were young. You know what I'm saying? You can go to the castle. You know what I'm saying?
Castle.
There
like,
definitely was more
for
stuff.
people that don't know, that's Malibu Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Right, where we had an arcade, you had mini golf, you had batting cages, and
call it
the
the castle.
cars, the little go-karts.
Yeah. It was right next to the Coliseum.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
man.
It had 2 locations, one in Redwood City, one in Oakland.
They had that. They had a movie theater over there.
Yeah, Century. Yeah, Century.
They been blowing to that ball.
And then, hold on.
They had a drive-in
at the Coliseum.
Yeah, the drive-in at the Coliseum drive-in. But also you had Eastmont Mall, bro.
Oh, nigga.
Eastmont.
Hold on, let me spill on Eastmont real quick.
Hold on. We're going to get to it. But, like, people really don't understand, like, in the 80s, mall culture was, like, you know what I'm saying, the equivalent to, like, social media today.
Lightweight, yeah,
People,
but malls,
people met at the mall.
And then also
like,
the
you got
popping,
everything at the mall.
right, the popping merchandise and all the
Everything
flyers.
was at the mall.
T.Y. Uzis was hella fucking big at Eastmont.
was.
I remember my grandmother, nigga, I must have been, I don't even know, not even 10 years old. I remember, and this shit is, you can fact check this shit. I don't remember if it was a weekend or a weekday. I remember it was Snoop, the Dog Pound,
when they had a concert up
and
at
Too
Eastmont.
Short.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was in the middle of the fucking
Eastmont.
Eastmont.
Yeah.
It was going crazy, man.
yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
And I just remember like,
bro,
damn.
So I remember I was walking to, because you remember Soul Beat went, and they were
Sophie was right on 73rd.
Yeah. So, bro, the nigga Jay-Z
And the big
getting
Eastmont.
interviewed.
Yeah.
I'm going to, but the nigga Paul worked at the cable company. Going to pay the cable bill for my mama. Didn't even know who this nigga was. Jay-Z, you know what I'm saying? All of them in there. It's like, it's crazy. But that's what it was. You had a little bit of everything there.
Just to wrap my whole little thing up, I know I've been going for a minute, but my thing was Oakland was hella unique, and that's the thing that that really bothers me to this day, right, is that how we used to go, we go to San Francisco, we go to a party in Richmond, we go to a party in Sac or something like that, and as soon as we step in the door, they're like, oh yeah, they from the town, right? And it was the lingo, it was the dress code, it was everything, right? And Oakland had its own swag, right? And so it would even be to where, we could be like, we see a group, they're like, man, that niggas ain't from around here. They from West Oakland or something. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Shout out to the west. Shout out to the north. You feel me?
All top. But it's just like, so.
But back then,
to
it
summarize,
was real different.
It was, right? So for me.
And distinguished.
It
Like-
was. So
like
for me.
East Side had their own style.
It did. And so for
No
me
question.
growing up, Oakland was hella unique because it was like, we was a Bay Area. We in the Bay Area. But anybody that I know from Oakland, you from the Bay? I'm from Oakland. Straight up.
Let me ask them, what do you think? Because the next thing I wanted to go to was like talk about how you've seen Oakland change over the years, right? Because and I can say, so I was gone from Oakland for like basically half my life, right? Like I went to school at 18 down in LA, and then I left from there and went to New York, and I only just came back. So that's starting in 2004. Right, so that's like pre-Obama. You know what I'm saying? And it was a trip.
A lot didn't happen.
Yeah, it was a trip too because, I would basically come back on holidays, right? So it'd be like I would come back around Christmas, and I might come back around, a few times a year. But I would only, I could see the changes, but it was. It's a trip too because. Sometimes when you're in it all the time, you don't notice it's changing. Whereas me, I'll come back and I'll be like, oh, this is a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? Like when downtown kind of changed and all that kind of stuff, right? But I also feel like I was gone for so long that I kind of lost a sense of like what it was that I remembered. And so when I would come back, I would kind of just be like, well, yeah, I guess this is kind of, you know.
How it was when I left.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm curious, like, what do you guys think about what, you know, how you've seen it change?
It's got a lot lighter. Put it like that. Nah, but I mean, you know,
Is this the part where we can speak up?
gentrification has definitely left its mark, man. Everything in Oakland you see today, I truly believe was planned. You know what I'm saying? Oakland, you know, in the past, and you know, was known as an African American city, like you know, like Washington D.C. or Houston, Texas, or Chicago. You know, it's like Harlem, New York. You're like, you know, Oakland, California. Like that's a black town.
But let me. So I had a question about that because I remember one of the things that stood out to me when I was a kid. I don't know where I heard this, but I think it was something like maybe it was around like the 2000 census. Maybe it was a little bit before, but it was like Oakland was basically like I think it was like 30% white, 30% black, 30% Hispanic, and then 10% Asian. Something around that where it was just like.
When was this?
It was less Hispanic.
I think it was. I want to say it was around like when I was like maybe 12 or something. Like around, so probably like around 2000 census.
Less Hispanic.
You think so?
At that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but I think
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but go ahead. Continue your.
Yeah. I mean, you know, because the identity of Oakland and like the soul and the essence of Oakland is pretty much like we responsible for that. I'm just gonna like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you got the A's, the Raiders, you know what I'm saying? But like 9 times out of 10 you're gonna think about the Panthers or, you know, you're gonna think about, you know what I'm saying, soul music, funk, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
you're talking about the
culture.
legacy
So
of
from
Oakland.
the
comes
legacy of
from-
Oakland.
The black culture.
Yeah.
The black culture
of Oakland.
Is pretty much
Yeah, in the
a
90s.
shell of itself.
90s, when you looked at Oakland, you look at the A's, you look at MC Hammer, Too
Tony,
Short,
Tony,
Tony,
Mark
and
Curry,
Vogue,
Souls of
and-
Mischief.
right? Mark
Yeah.
Curry, and like so, it's
Yeah,
like all
Hank-
this.
yeah.
So it's all this.
Mark Curry
So is that
was
Too
on
Short?
ABC.
Right, and
Mark
so,
Curry's up at Fairfax, nigga, copping bottles.
No,
so-
for real, but that's the thing.
But when
like
you
he
think
was
about
on.
Oakland, but-
this is the nigga on Fairfax,
Right.
counting models.
Oakland was
on
popping.
ABC.
Oakland was popping though at the like, and so
Exactly.
you hear about you're like, oh, what's going on in Oakland? Oh man, you know, you hear about
Don't
that.
forget about the
it was
festival
that type
at the
of
lake.
stuff,
Yeah, that shit
right?
was
Oh yeah,
crazy.
no question.
But now all you hear about Oakland is negative. So you know what I'm saying. So it's like it's changed a lot.
For sure.
I mean, but,
yeah, for
but
me,
the thing about it is, you heard about the negative things because, I mean, you know, you had the drugs and everything, and we were getting blamed for the drugs. But my
Still got
point
the
was
drugs.
that the culture of the city, you get what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, it was thriving.
It's just completely different.
So you're talking about now
sure it
compared
is.
to back then.
Absolutely.
It was thriving in the 90s,
It was
man.
like,
It
you know,
was.
When it was about when it was like cross colors and Malcolm X pendants and shit like that.
don't
Like
forget the pajama pants.
you know what I'm saying? When
But
early
I mean,
90s.
but even before that, though, but like, you know what I'm saying? When Nelson Mandela was released from prison.
That's early 90s, the same time I'm talking about.
Bro,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
for me, how I've seen this shit change, like I just remember late 80s, often the 90s and shit, early 2000s, motherfuckers was outside. It was like community. You feel me? Like, I swear, like us growing up, there was probably like a 15, let's say 10 to be conservative, like a 10 block radius, but we knew everybody. You feel me? Like it was just hella partners, knew they families, all type of go down to seminary, go to Rainbow, hoop with niggas, go to the underground, hoop with niggas, just like as little kids and shit. Go over to Horseman, hoop with niggas.
I don't
You
even
feel
see
me?
niggas no more.
Like all type of shit, you feel me? But not only that, you feel me? The motherfucking block parties, you feel me? Like growing up, used to have block parties all the time. And not only on your block, You go to somebody else's block, you feel me? Be like, oh yeah, they from so and so. You feel me? Like they just gonna pull up. You feel me? And it would just be all love. Like who the fuck be having block parties now? You feel me? Like they're few and far between. But this was like going on all the time.
Let me ask, you think that shift is specific to Oakland, or you think that's kind of like a society? Because like the world is very different today than it was in the 90s, right? Like, you know, you got cell phones, everybody's
I mean, I'm pretty
phone.
sure the same thing we complaining about, they complaining about in Chicago, New York, D.C., Baltimore. You know what I'm saying? All them like cities that were like known to be like you know what I'm saying, heavily concentrated with us.
I think that's a good point as far as like it is an issue across the country, right? We're gentrification has been going on throughout all like urban areas throughout the whole country, right? So I think all cities have experienced some type of that, right? And so some type of bam, now property values are a lot more, and so like what that does now is bringing in a whole different like demographic into the neighborhood, and that's not a bad thing. But the thing about it is just like now you pricing out some people that have got generations and generations like in this area. So it's like, you know, now where are they supposed to go type shit. But so not even just to get hella deep on gentrification, but just to acknowledge, yes, that's going on through all major cities. Now I think it hit different in Oakland because of the vibe, the unique vibe that Oakland did have, right?
So one thing, I had a thought when you were talking about gentrification, because I've had an interesting experience with it, right? Like I moved to New York in 2008 after school, and I was basically a gentrifier, right? Like I wasn't from Harlem, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't from the Bronx when I moved to the Bronx. No. But hold on. I'm gonna tell you what I'm saying, right? So I was talking to my mom on the phone, and I think somehow we were talking about, I don't know if we were talking about gentrification or talking about yuppies or something like that. But she was like, "You're a yuppie." And I was like, "What?" She was like, young, upwardly mobile. You know, like she was basically like breaking down what a yuppie is, and I was like, "Damn." Like, But hold on. So you know, like I was moving into neighborhoods, into these luxury buildings, right? That when they were constructed were displacing residents, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, and this was true when I moved to New York, when I moved to Harlem, this was true for a lot of people who look like me, who were kind of not necessarily priced out of Lower Manhattan, right? But like, you didn't have you were fine living in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, I'm around my people. Like, I'm cool with this. So, but you know, you were making a little bit of money, right? And so there were these buildings that you could move into who were kind of like catering to you, but you know, you were basically a part of the same thing that's happening here now. And so when it was happening back then, I didn't really know what gentrification was, and so I kind of just thought like, oh, this is like a New York thing, like how you know. And then so it was a trip for me when I moved, like not when I moved back here, but even like maybe I would say 10 years ago, when I would come back and I would see like, oh, downtown is changing and stuff like that, and I kind of realized like, wait,
got a fucking juice bar? What the?
Well, I was like, oh, this is the same thing that I'm a part of in New York. Let me ask another question, because I think everybody who spoke, they talked about their own childhood. And, you know, each of us here is a father. I'm curious how you guys view Oakland now as a father raising your child. You know, so Judah, you gave the example of, you know, hearing gunshots and your dad kind of, you know, wanting to hit the ground and kind of be protective, right? Like, you know, I'm curious how you guys sort of view the violence, the some of the rawness of Oakland now as parents, you know, naturally want to be protective and all of that. And I'm curious how you guys think about it.
Man, I mean, it's crazy. Me personally being like growing up in Oakland and all of that, and then now moving out of Oakland right? And so now, not raising my kids in Oakland and still being involved, you know, in Oakland a lot of whatnot, and like my kids play sports in Oakland and things like that. But it's yeah, I mean it's crazy, man, how you it's like you didn't. So when we were growing up, right, you know, you feeling like you invincible, right? And so, you know, you go through what you go through or whatever, and then as a parent, it's like, damn, do I want my kids going through things that I went through and stuff like that? And so, so it's kind of hard to sum it up. It's tough because like I don't have to. So like I said, I'm not raising my kids in Oakland, but I have like certain decisions about like hanging out and if they should be doing this or that in Oakland, or even in like, or even my area, you know, like where my kids branch off to is, you know, it's some questionable places around there too. And so you think about things differently. And so as a parent, it's scary. It's scary, to be honest. And so, with that being said, not that you walk around with fear, but it's like now it's different. We used to go outside. We didn't have cell phones and all that stuff when we was kids, and we would wander off and search sometimes, and our parents didn't know where the hell we was at, right? But these days, nah, you ain't letting your kids just wander around all over the place and stuff. So it's just different.
Yeah, so for me, it's just like, I mean, Aaron, we got the youngest kids here.
Yep.
So it's like, I'll be talking to both of them about like, you know, raising their kids in Oakland and stuff. And I see in my nieces and nephews just like a big difference, like as far as like the exposure, you know? Like I look at like my oldest nieces and nephews and like what they're doing now compared to like what we were doing. And it was just like, it's clear that we grew up way too fast. We were exposed to a lot more stuff. And so, but by being exposed to that stuff, like you're able to give them that game. You feel me? So like for me, like, yeah, I know that growing up in the hood, going over to the corporate world, just having that mentality of like, a mother is not gonna get over on me, having those street smarts and shit, and like how that can translate to the corporate world. Like there's a lot of benefits to that. So yeah, like part of me be like, yeah, I want my kids to
I think I see what you're saying. Like
Yeah,
you kind of want them to have the same experience you did for those benefits to a
right
degree.
to an extent. Like I want them to have that toughness.
I feel like that's a tough, what's the expression? A tough like needle to thread, right?
For
like,
sure.
To strike a balance because, and I think somebody kind of said it at the top. I think Judy, you were talking about how rare our upbringing was, or your upbringing was in comparison to your peers, right? Like you were talking about most of your peers come from single family situations, had worse, you know, drug related situations in their surroundings, right? And so, you know, to be able to have the kind of the experiences that instill toughness, as you guys, as you put it, Marcus, right? But then to not be too far to the point where, you know, you end up lost or whatever, like
Right.
that's hard to do.
It is.
It's a tightrope.
And so
You know
I
what I'm
also,
saying?
like I'm already, when I be up late night looking at different districts in Oakland, like the best schools and shit. Like I already be looking at it. Then I'll be looking at it like compared to like other counties and all this kind of stuff. And just trying to formulate a plan, you feel me? But like definitely want my kids to have that Oakland pride, you feel me? But then also to be exposed to other stuff like how we were, like going to Sequoia, being in different environments and stuff, and like just knowing how to be yourself and just grow as an individual, you know? Just like encompassing all of what Oakland is pretty much, you feel me?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll jump in for a second. I think this is really topical for me because I was thinking about a lot of this stuff when we decided to move back here, and we have my son here, and then it's like you'll hear a story about some shooting on the freeway, you know what I'm saying, and like a child getting hit from a stray bullet from a shooting on 580, and it's just like. I'm like, what? Like, what part of the game is like? That's what's happening now. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so there was a part of me that was asking myself, like, am I being irresponsible, like by choosing to raise my son in Oakland? You know what I'm saying? Like why am I making this decision, right? And yes, it's home. Like, yes, I have family, but like should we live in Lafayette? You know what I'm saying? Like
for sure, yeah.
But Oakland is not just ghetto, right? And so the whole Oakland ain't fucking ghetto.
No,
so you know what I'm saying. There's certain parts. So so it's like.
But I will say, just to on that thread, like 580 runs throughout all of it, right? And
you're easy to find.
But look,
wherever you're at.
But yeah, my point was kind of like I'm not I didn't settle down in an area I don't feel comfortable in.
For sure.
But this idea that like the kind of like and maybe this is probably some topic for another episode, but like the unrest that is bred by income inequality and some other things, right? That kind of just every now and then bubbles up and somebody gets shot on the freeway, and it's just like we're all living through that, right? And so, me, I'm like, should I just if my responsibility as a parent is to protect my child, like should I just
expose them to that?
Well, should I just be 100% as safe as I can and just not be, you know what I'm saying?
But see, this is the thing, because it's like we be having these conversations. It's like if you're in a suburban area, like what's to say like a kid doesn't bring a gun to school and shoot up the school? Like, you feel me? Like that ain't really happening like in the hood like that. You feel me? Like
it's a little different. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Like violence is gonna be everywhere, so you just do the best to protect your child. You feel me? But like, yeah, to Judah's point, like all of Oakland ain't just like hella hood. Case in point, before I moved to where I was at now, I was in another spot in the East, and it was active, right? But the block that I was on was quiet as fuck, you feel me? And it kind of reminded me of old Oakland because, like, I'm cooler with the neighbors over there than I am on my own fucking block. You feel me? Like, I know, like, all these motherfuckers, you feel me? Like, they hella cool and shit, but around the corner, like, niggas get it popping. You feel me? Pretty much around every corner, niggas was getting it popping. And I was thinking about that shit. I was like, bro, like, nigga, like, some bullets can fly through this motherfucker and, like, hit one of my sons. You feel me?
Right.
And so it's that kind of fear. But it's just like growing up, like hearing gunshots every night, hearing sirens, hearing helicopters. I never once thought about like, oh, a bullet's gonna come and hit me and I'm gonna die. It's just like I feel like that's that parent fear.
It's definitely a conversation, you like, all right, we about to move to Oakland. So you definitely want to do your homework. Okay, well, where are they gonna go to school at? Where we gonna live at? And this and that and that. And just like how you did, when you was like, yo, I like this house over here. What y'all think about it, man? What type of, and so, you got to do your homework because you could end up in the wrong place. Right. So, Oakland is broad in that sense to where, even though it's not hella big like that, but, certain areas you'll want to stay away from. And if you had the ability to choose, if you had a luxury of being able to choose where you're gonna stay at, then you cool. But if you if you can only stay where you can afford, if you gotta be in the lower income type area, then you want to think about, do I want my kid going to this school or that, that type of shit. It's tricky because it's coming from somebody that actually kind of moved out of Oakland to raise his kids. You know what I'm saying? So, but my background is a little different. That's why I wanted to have the
conversation, right? Because I think that's an important perspective, right? Because everything that you're saying, I understand, I agree with, and you decided to let me move over here and let me, you know what I'm saying? Let me set myself up like this. And I think that's real. Like those are the kind of decisions that we're kind of thrust into, right? Like,
Right.
Yeah, and I'll be thinking about having that balance and stuff too, though, right? Like, I want my kids to be like from Oakland. You feel me? But at the same time, it's just like I want them to get the best education too. You feel me? And like, there's a lot of great schools in Oakland. You feel me? But then also kind of to like what you said as far as like, your kids are going to school like outside of Oakland, but then coming back and doing recreational activities in Oakland. And I feel like that's a good bridge to have, you feel me? Like a good balance. But then also more to that point, it was just like when we was growing up, man, we was fortunate enough, like, man, our moms was holding it down. Like we was in sports, we was in karate, we was doing swimming, we was doing hella, you feel me? And like we was blessed to come from 2-family households and kind of have those resources and being exposed and being kept busy.
2-parent, you're talking about?
Yeah,
2-parent house?
Yeah.
You said 2-family.
Oh, yeah.
I got
No,
you.
he meant that right way. 2-family household.
Yeah, was that too.
That'll be another subject for another episode. You know what I'm saying?
How you niggas related? Nah, but yeah, man. So it's just like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of statistics around that as far as just like the trajectory of a child. You feel me? As far as like what they're exposed to, and as far as like the extracurricular. You feel me?
Definitely.
You got anything you want to say, Ray? On the kids.
Yeah, I pretty much just stress to my kids, like, understand where you are, you know what I'm saying? Like, I try to, like, let them understand the history and make sure they appreciate where they're from, because it is unique to the planet, I believe, And they good. They understand it, you know what I'm saying? My kids go to school in Alameda, so they understand the contrast, kind of sort of like how they were speaking on earlier, about going to one environment, dealing with one situation, and coming back to the hood and dealing with reality. So, and especially in this day and age, I think it'll give them the upper hand, you know what I'm saying, as they go into adulthood, you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, I think exposure in those type of situations, I think exposure is better than to just hide your kids away from. So not to be like, exposure to just crime or whatnot, but knowing your environment, just like you said, it's important to know your environment, know where you at. So you want to, I'm gonna be outside with my kids. We gonna walk to the store. We gonna this and that, right? So we gonna be in the neighborhood and we gonna see certain things. And when I see something, I can explain to you what's going on, right? And how do you respond to that? How are you supposed to act when you see something like that? Because the problem is when kids get out and about, because at some point we gotta let them go on their own, right? And so when they ain't never seen that stuff, right? That's when, when they ain't seen that stuff, then
you don't know how to react.
You don't know how to handle certain things.
That's the needle that we're trying to thread, right? It's like
it's the
you
tightrope.
don't want to.
You gotta walk a tightrope.
You don't want to shelter, but at the same time, you want to give them the best opportunity.
You want to emphasize safety and let them understand that, like, we're different. Like, you know what I'm saying? You might see the reality outside the house, but, you know what I'm saying? You come from a place of love and, structure and everything.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to touch on, because I think it came up in all of everything we talked about, is going to school outside of Oakland, right? So, you went to school in Berkeley. You went to, well, not necessarily outside of Oakland, but a different part of Oakland.
It's kind of like outside.
Outside of Black Oakland.
Yeah, and Ray, you mentioned your kids go to school in Alameda. I went to school all over, but I went to high school in Danville, right? Yeah. And this was a part of, again, my parents, my mother in particular, prioritizing education. I was a part of a program called ABC, A Better Chance. And so we were kind of looking at particular schools, and I ended up, choosing to go to this school that's out in Danville. And like, as I think about, I guess what I'm thinking about is like the fact you talked about how unique sort of our circumstances or stories were, and kind of like being able to walk that tightrope of perhaps being around a lot of rough stuff, but having a decent enough head on your shoulders to not fall into some of the traps. I think, to speak for myself, I was probably a little more on the other side of that. I mean, we all know, like I was more on the sheltered side, right? Like, and that was intentional. Like I remember, we used to live off. So my dad was on High Street, and it's like a Discovery Center now.
Right next to Brookdale Park.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
that's wild.
So that was his house, and that's the house that him and my mom lived in. And then they separated when I was like 2, and then my mom moved like basically around the corner, right off 35th, and that's where we were until I was about 6, and then we moved to like Redwood Heights. But I think what prompted that was like, the neighborhood was not where they wanted to raise me. Like I think one thing that sticks out in my mind, there was like a party. It was like a kids party, but like a bunch of kids ended up getting like shot up over like a video game. Like there was some shotguns involved that they had in the house, and they got into an argument over some Super Nintendo or something like that, and like 3 or 4 kids got shot. And I think they kind of looked around and they were like, let's try to find a different environment.
For sure.
And
From Sylvester House?
yep. Yeah, so that's when we moved. That's when we
Right.
moved to like right off of Carson in Redwood Heights. So he was on like online.
Oh, I remember the old house.
Yeah, like-
off of Brookdale.
No, it was
online.
online. It was online.
Online.
Yeah,
Yeah.
36 in line.
Yeah, but that
Yeah.
but Brookdale was right over
Yeah, right now. Yeah, it was right next to it. So
I remember that house being cold as
the line. I was like, damn, the hot tub here with the little hot tub in the back.
Yeah, there was a hot tub. So, but the point is like that was like that shift to Redwood Heights kind of coincided with my exodus from a lot of like the rougher surroundings, right? So then I went to John Swett for a couple of years, but then, or maybe for like a year and a half, but then I went to Beacon Day School, and then I was at Black Pine Circle in Berkeley, and then and it's interesting now. I moved back here. I'm raising my son, and so I'm kind of coming from the other side because I see the value in like, prioritizing education, right? But I also see the value in exactly what some of you guys are talking about like, being exposed to, I guess, like authenticity and knowing how to carry yourself, knowing how to handle yourself.
Social skills are necessary. You know what I'm saying? They're just as necessary as education, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, they go
You can have
towards
all the education in the world, and if you don't have no social skills, you still gonna be ass out.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm balancing now is like, how do we? So a good example is you were talking about when we were looking for a house, right? And we looked at one particular spot, and my wife really had like an avocado tree in the backyard, and she just was like in love with it.
like, don't do it.
And it wasn't in a terrible area. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was like a patchy area, right? But I remember thinking like, I don't, like, is this where I want to raise my son? You know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking, in the calculus that's going on is everything that we're talking about, right? It's like, because there was a lot that we were considering when we were looking for a house, right? Like we were in an Airbnb in Montclair, and so we looked at a lot of places over there that we could not afford, right? But like what we were hoping to find is like a neighborhood with some people that look like us, where there was a little bit of
Culture.
Cultural diversity, socioeconomic diversity if possible, right? Instead of just like very homogenous, like, we all work in X, Y, you know what I'm saying? Or like we're all this type of person or family or whatever. But so we were blessed, I'll say, to be able to land in the situation that we did. But at the time, part of that calculus for me was like, this is the streets where I choose to live. That is what's going to shape my son as much as I, equally as much as me, no matter what I try to do.
If not more. if not more, because you gotta understand, like, you know how it go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Once they get, you know what I'm saying, moving around, them schools got them, bro,
Yeah.
for the whole day. So you know what I'm saying? You got to think about that too.
Not only the schools, but then like their peers. Their peers got them, and like what their peers are exposed
And
to.
social media and all that shit.
Yeah.
So
it's really
it's a
important.
brave new world.
Yeah, what you instill into your kids. You feel me?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're running on an hour 40. We might have to split this up. We'll see. I think this was fun though.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Anything anybody
Tip
want
of
to
the
add
iceberg.
before? Yeah. Anything anybody want to say before we start to sign off?
Gentrification is racist, and I will prove it.
All right.
I just want to say,
Aaron is not a gentrifier. He cannot possibly be. The same rules do not apply.
A-Trav.
Excuse me.
A-Trav.
A-Trav is not a gentrifier.
He is a transplant.
hey man,
He is a traveling man.
old Oakland still live, man. That new shit, man. It's 80s
right.
babies out here, man.
I do want to say shout out to the Coup. That's whose music you hear playing
Most
on the
definitely.
intro and outro.
Oh yeah, shout out to the Cool.
Oakland legends,
Straight up,
man.
yeah.
Yeah. And
And,
a special shout out to Cool. Like I ain't want to interrupt him. Shout out to Boost, but shout out to Keith, man. They bass player and they band, man. You know what I'm saying? That's right for me to use.
And, what's the name? Rest in peace
Rest in peace, Pam.
to the
Rest in
Pam
peace,
the
Pam.
Funktress, man.
Rest in peace, Pam the Funktress, man. One of the
There we
illest DJs in hip hop history. No Diddy. No Diddy, no conspiracy.
There we go. But yeah, to add on to that, special thanks to Boots Riley for allowing us to use that on the intro and outro.
Real pleasure.
We'll be back in a couple weeks with another episode. I think we'll maybe tease the title. So next episode, title of next episode is Oakland is a professional sports desert. So you know, we're gonna talk about it. I think
Let's go, f***ers.
Puke emoji.
we'll get into the
What
conversation.
the fuck is that?
Until then,
We were doing
Tell
so good.
Biz it is what it is.
Yeah, like show, man.
well, until next time, remember, Oakland is as Oakland does.
Showtime.
Stay grounded and spread love.
Slot just slated. We realized that our power is nickel plated.
Masses move as well as asses do. Classes through. Our time is over past this due.
And you still wanna
The
know.
origin of the flow. Oakland, California, now for 6-1 up.
Yeah, the coup coming at you in 93.
Yeah. And we out, y'all.